Welcome to the Global Discussion, a discussion with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name is Simon Hodgkins. Today, I'm really happy to be joined by Gavin Duff. Gavin, you're very welcome to the show. Let's begin by asking you, maybe introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do for our worldwide audience.
Yeah, so I've been working in digital marketing for it's 2 decades now, just over 2 decades. So look, I started my career search engine side, which is why SEO has always been a particular love of mine. I worked for Yahoo, which is now the search engine that nobody uses. But it's the same principles as Google, and so I learned a hell of a lot there. And from there, then I worked client side. I worked for O2, Telefonica O2, which is now obviously three mobile. So I was managing their website and the processes around that, including SEO and content. And then since then, I've been working digital agency side, which small agencies, large agencies, and working with clients of all sizes and across all jurisdictions. And across all channels as well, realistically, digitally. So, I've advised on strategies across display advertising, search advertising, social media, organic and paid, content strategy, content production, and very much SEO is a core strength of mine as well. So, yeah, and on top of that, I guess as well, I lecture in this area as well. So I've lectured in the DIT, which is now it's got a new name now, and Trinity College most recently as well on their marketing masters. So teaching people all of this wonderful stuff, which I really enjoy as well.
Thank you, Gavin, for giving us that synopsis. You've packed an awful lot of experience into a very short summary there. But I just want for people watching and listening to this episode, I mean, you've worked with some really big brands on the Irish side, people like Bud Gosh,
Mm.
Busser, and you mentioned Telefonica, the Irish Times, AIB, Danone, Mason, Hayes and Curran, Heineken, Mazda, Domino's Pizza, AXA Insurance, Amazon, everyone from News Talk, 98 FM, the Gaiety Theatre, Tato,
Yeah.
TV3, Ford, Hilton Hotels. I mean, you could go on and on and on. So,
I know you literally couldn't make it up,
I mean, it
Yeah.
really is, well-known brands, both in Ireland and globally, and you have a lot of expertise. I do want to get into SEO in a little bit, but I can't go any further without you talking a little bit about hiding dead bodies. Now, that might shock people watching or listening, but you wrote a great book on your expertise. And the title I love, Hiding Dead Bodies. Tell us a little bit about the writing process, where the title came from, and a little bit about what that book's about, because I think it's superb.
I mean, you won't be surprised to hear that I need to explain the book title to a lot of people, especially those who intend to read it in public, because you can get some quite funny looks. Yeah, so it comes from the old phrase that it's an old phrase in the SEO community and digital marketing community, whereby they say that the best place to hide a dead body is page two of Google. Because really, when someone searches on Google, you're not going to page two. You're realistically not. And so it was a play upon that. And also, I've had times in my career where a client, some large brands, some not so large, have come to me and they've had something on the first page of search results that they wanted hidden and they didn't want it there. So to me, it made sense to me to call it hiding dead bodies, because really that's what it is. And plus it was just a cool title, and I thought it would get some attention, because if you go on Amazon and you look for a book about SEO or digital marketing or content, so many of them are so generic, and the title will be, oh, your top 10 ways to SEO success or content success. I didn't want it to be that. I wanted people to see something a little different, and the engagement I've seen on Amazon and other channels is reflected by that. The title as well, it's as macabre as it might sound, it's more welcoming than that of those other books. It doesn't sound daunting. It's like, and the subheading, of course, is your no nonsense path to SEO glory, because really I wanted with this book to simplify it for people who simplify is probably a strong word, because there's no real way to explain SEO in a simple way, because there's a lot to it. But I wanted to simplify it for people who already work in marketing, have heard of SEO, are sometimes involved in conversations where SEO comes up or content strategy comes up. And I want this book to arm them with just enough or just enough and then some to engage in those conversations. But they can't really bring the book into the meeting because again, you'll get some funny looks. So, but yeah, it's a real labor of love. Like I started it during COVID. You know, I always wanted to write a book on SEO anyway because it's always been my core passion. So I started it during COVID, and it took some years to write because not because of the subject matter, but because there's so much involved in SEO and it changes so often that it was never the right time to release it. So I would have released it a year ago, but then AI came along. And I thought, well, I can't release an SEO book now that doesn't discuss the impact of AI and all that type of stuff on it. And so I feel that now that AI is there and we're getting to grips with that, and I've put in some content in the book around what to expect with that and how it's going to play with content and SEO, then I was happy to say, right, now is the time to hit go. So yeah, very, very, very proud of it. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the book. As I said, the title is superb. And I just want to maybe go into it a little bit because you talk a little bit when you reference the book that hiding dead bodies provides people with tools to outmaneuver the competition. I know that's
Yeah.
important to people watching and listening because we're all chasing this mythical creature, which is sustainable organic growth. Um, the
Yeah.
algorithms seem to keep changing,
Yeah.
and so does user behavior, I suppose. But then, as you mentioned, this AI beast continues
Yeah.
to devour everything. So, one of the questions that I'm getting asked a lot is for people that are experienced marketeers, they have some handle on SEO. They kind of know how the game works. Let's
Yeah.
call it the Google world,
Yeah.
whether that's organic or paid. But with AI, getting your content to rank, getting your content to even appear in the output from some of these large language models, it seems as though there's a two-tier platform. And a lot of the big tech platforms, the traditional search, maybe if I put it that way, seem to just be bolting AI onto absolutely everything they can.
Yeah.
And I really would love to get your perspective because obviously you wrote the book, you've got all this experience, you work with all these big clients, and this must be coming up in your work all the time.
Yeah.
What's your view on where we're at with AI and search engine optimization?
Yeah, so it doesn't even just come up in work. I mean, this comes up over coffee with friends because AI is such it's such a huge topic now, even just day to day for people who have nothing to do with digital marketing. So yeah, I'm always asked the question. I think, you know, at the moment, yeah, and you're correct in saying that, a lot of people are just sort of bolting AI onto things. And that a lot of that is probably shareholder appeasement. It's, we've got to have something that's AI in our offering. And that will evolve over time into something better. But when it comes to SEO, what I've learned so far is that um, if you want to rank on Google as it stands currently without AI, Google look for trust signals anyway. So they look for who has the best type of content in as much as they can judge that. And then they will look at who is linking to that content. So, but who are the trusted sources linking to that content? And that will continue to be a signal for SEO. If you have a website that no one's linking to or no one important is linking to, it's harder to rank. So when it comes to ranking your content or surfacing your content on AI, the same principles will apply. The AI platforms are looking for the contents, are looking to scrape or steal the content that is the most trusted, because they don't want to surface bad results in the same way that Google never did. They sometimes do by accident, both of them do, but they don't want to. So ChatGPT, for example, will be using those same types of signals. And that's why, if I search at the moment, for example, for best digital agency Dublin, I would love for us to be surfaced. But in actual fact, it surfaces agencies who are you may not have ever heard of or are quite small. And that's because ChatGPT is looking at it's looking in the wrong places at the moment. It's looking at directory pages and pages that are just not authoritative enough. But over time, it will learn where those authority signals come from, and that's how you'll get ranked. So anyone wondering how to get their content surfaced on and referenced on AI, will just need to look at those same kind of trust signals. So if you produced a piece of content and you want that to end up being referenced on an AI platform, then you've got to spread it. You've got to get it linked to. You've got to share it on social media, get it out there, and because otherwise, it's not going to be seen. It won't be seen as authoritative just because it exists. You know. So that in a nutshell, I hope answers that question.
It does, and I really like what you phrased there, which is the trust signals,
Yeah,
because ultimately, good content is good content. And if people are finding it relevant, it kind of bubbles to the top a little bit. I know I'm being a little bit simplistic there, but producing good content, I think, is a big part of it. And then also deploying the more traditional ways of making sure that your search engine optimization is key. And as you're sort of saying to me, if I'm hearing you correctly, Gavin, that there'll be a more of a learning from the AI systems, that ultimately this looks like good content, this doesn't look like good content, this is the
yeah.
content that kind of meets those trust signals, these are lesser so, and maybe we'll see more of a merging. Am I reading that correctly?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And on top of that as well, I think over time the AI platforms where someone might search for information will start to incorporate more engagement signals. So they will begin to understand behaviorally the type of content that people have said, yes, that is correct. That is what I was looking for. Now, how they do that is unclear yet, but Google have started doing that already by way of if your search result shows on Google and more people click on yours than someone else's, it's more likely you will rank higher. And if people come through to your website and stay longer, it's more likely you will rank higher as well. So they're looking at actual human engagement. And once ChatGPT and other platforms integrate that as well into what they're doing and how they determine what good content is, that'll be a game changer, because at the moment they haven't done that. They're using basic enough signals to determine what to surface, but
Yeah.
that will change in time.
No, thank you. One question that springs to mind on this topic, Gavin, is that the traditional SEO game is still very strong, and you need to play
Yeah,
really well here. But AI can help you play traditional SEO maybe better than you've been playing it in the past. Do
yeah,
you find that is AI a great enabler to help you get
yeah.
better organic search engine optimization?
Yeah, definitely. It should never. I mean, I always say the tools can't do SEO. Only people can do SEO. Because there are nuances to how people behave. There are certain localization aspects of it that you need to consider. There's tons of things that a machine is just not going to be able to do. They're great for crawling websites, doing stuff like that. And some AI tools now are great at crawling websites and saying, here are your technical problems. But those same tools are not able to crawl a website and say, you've got these technical problems, but we understand why you can't fix that one because of that conversation you had separately a week ago. They just don't know. And so it takes that human input, and it always has. But in terms of AI enabling SEO, I think the I suppose the most applicable part of that I've found has been around content. So I encourage clients not to use ChatGPT or similar to create their content. Even if you tell it to create it in an SEO friendly way, it goes and writes it in a style that would suit SEO 10 years ago. It will stuff keywords into it and try and do that stuff that just doesn't work anymore, and in fact can actually get you penalized. So we encourage clients not to use it to actually write their content, but it's great for writer's block, and it's great for inspiration. So you can say to it, for example, we have an SEO strategy and I'm thinking of covering this topic. Could you let me know what subtopics I should cover under that? Have I missed anything? And it will tell you, oh, you should talk about that and that. And you get ideas that way, so it's great. It's a great guide, and it's a great tool to use to enhance what you're doing, but it should never write your content. But to me, that's the best application of it so far when it comes to SEO. I think the technical aspects of SEO are best left to humans and developers for now. Um, but that may change.
No, it's a great point. And I want to ask you a little bit about, you mentioned lecturing when you were telling us a little bit about yourself at the start. And
Mm,
I'm often perplexed at lecturing in the digital cyber SEO space because it seems to change so quickly.
Yeah.
Um, am I right in saying that it's a huge challenge? I mean, I know there's curriculum and the set modules, and students are taught
Yeah.
certain things, but the landscape seems to be changing at a ferocious pace, Gavin.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think some universities and their content, colleges and universities, their content is way, way behind. I won't say who, but I've had discussions with some about potential lecturing, and I looked at the material, and I wouldn't have had time to modernize it, but it's so far behind, because as you said, it changes all the time, and you can't blame them for that. They can't keep up with that. So the better approach in my mind is what I tend to do when I lecture is that yes, they have their curriculum and they have their modules and they will still be covered and they cover all of the theory and your approach to digital marketing, say. But then they'll bring in someone like myself who will talk about how to do it practically today. And so, okay, that might be outdated in a year, but at least you're opening the actual ad platforms and showing them and talking them through it and what you should do, how you build your strategy and audiences. And so they're seeing it there and then. Um, it's far better than referencing old screenshots of Google ads from 5 years ago. They actually get to see it in action. And when I remember, I was so happy one day. It was in Trinity College actually, and I was lecturing the marketing master's students. And a lot of my lecture was theory up to a point, but very modernized. And but at the point where I pulled up the Meta Ads platform on screen and I said, I'm going to show you all now what it actually looks like in reality and how I built these campaigns, half of the class at least got up and sat in a circle around me to look at it because they wanted to see how do I just apply this, because they hear so much theory, which is fine. But I think that's what more universities and colleges need to do. They need to get people like myself and others who've been doing this for a couple of decades, bring them in and say, look, you've learned all that, but now this is how you apply that. And they really, really value it.
Yeah, and we hear that call a lot from employers, don't we? When they poll employers and they say, "What do you need these sort of student outturns?
Yeah,
What kind of qualifications?" And they really are drilling into the practical
yeah.
execution of things, not just the theory. So it's really refreshing to hear you
Yeah.
say that. Now
It's
I'm going
very
to use a
and
bad
like
analogy. Sorry, go
I
ahead,
was just
Kevin.
going to say to give context, like I don't have a degree, but now I'm lecturing in this in Trinity College and other places, and so what I have is all based on practicality and doing it. So there is no better way to learn. People say, I know the theory is important, but just getting into it and doing it and trying it and failing and success, it's also important. And I interrupted you. Apologies.
No, no, it's fine. It's a good point that you make. And I was going to make a bad analogy about needing a plumber for your home or an electrician or a builder or a roofer. And there's so many of them out there. And
Yeah,
yet you're always worried about getting the right one that's actually going to do the job properly and get the right part and the right time and not be too expensive and all the good things.
yeah.
I was going to use that as a parallel into, and I'm sure people watching and listening to this episode will be in the same boat I am, where you constantly receive emails from people telling you they're going to help you rank page one on Google. They're an SEO expert. You're doing it wrong. Here's how we can help you. What sort of tips or advice would you have for people who know they have a problem or a challenge and are
Mm.
trying to tackle it the right way? Obviously, they can contact somebody like you and your agencies, but is there any sort of practical advice for that? Because to me, it's a bit like
Yeah,
a lot of people have this leaking tap. They have this problem with their SEO, but
yeah.
even though there's lots of people out there, there's so much noise. It's hard to understand what's right anymore.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's a difficult one to answer. I needed a plumber about a year ago, and I found one, and he was terrible. And the same happens with SEO professionals. We often take on clients who have just been working with an SEO professional, as they call themselves, and they've done damage to their business realistically because some of these are online only businesses, and they might get penalized by Google or they might fall off the face of a cliff and their sales are gone. It's very dangerous to engage with the wrong person. So it's good you asked this. Um, my advice would be if you get an email about it, that should encourage you to go and seek a solution for your answer. Don't immediately engage with that email as the answer, because those emails are two a penny. I get them as well, offering me SEO services, and I'm like, well, I've got that taken care of. But but yeah, I think the only way really is research and meetings. So, if say you're a Dublin-based company and you've got a leak, um, I would go on Google, I'd search for, best SEO or digital agencies Dublin, find the top five, have a quick phone call with each one, see if you click, see if they seem to know what they're saying, and then arrange a meeting with the top two perhaps, and meet them in person and say, look, I just want to get to know you. Would we work well together? And go from there, because realistically, anything outside of that is subjective until you work together and understand if they can execute for you. You can as well, of course, ask for client references. If it's those top two, let's say, you're going to meet with, then do by all means ask for client references, and ensure that they're good to work with, and not just good to work with, but can actually deliver for you. Because I mean, from my experience, it might sound harsh to say, but probably half of the SEO professionals out there, there's a low barrier to entry, let's just say, and they're doing some work that just isn't great, and in actual fact could do some damage. But there are some really, really good, really strong people out there as well. Just got to say that.
That's a great answer.
Um,
And I like what you said as well about sometimes you got to undo some of the bad work that's been done. And sometimes,
yeah. Mhm.
companies, or people maybe not as familiar with in the SEO world and expertise that you are for sure, they sometimes don't realize what negative impact it's having when you get your SEO wrong.
Oh, it's
Um,
catastrophic. I had
yeah.
a client I took on, there's a number of years ago now, and they knew they had an SEO problem, but they didn't have the in-house knowledge to understand what the problem was. They weren't getting the traffic. So first thing I did was set them up on a tool called Google Search Console, which I'm sure you've heard of, and that will diagnose what high level issues you're having. First thing I saw was that they'd been penalized, and their website wasn't even appearing on Google. Even when you search for their own name, it was gone, and that's because their previous agency had paid for like thousands and thousands of links to their site. They'd done some horrible spammy things, and they disappeared from Google. And so we had to go through a process of getting them reinstated. And for about 2 or 3 months, they had no online lead generation at all from organic traffic. It's so dangerous, and it actually it makes me slightly angry when I hear about it. And let's say it's a small family business somewhere in, let's say, Cork or something, and they've engaged with someone who is just not good. It might even do damage to them, and when I see what that's doing to their business and their family, it's heartbreaking, but
Yeah, and
yeah.
the penalties for that can be very severe to the
Mm,
point that you drop off
yeah.
the internet, or drop
Yes,
off the major search engine, I should say.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, look, you're a busy guy, and I want to ask you about your way of thinking and planning for the year ahead. What's on your radar? What are you thinking about? Is there a Dead Bodies 2 in the works? What's happening in your world? Is it more lecturing? What's the next 6 to 12 months look like for
So
Gavin?
maybe resurrecting dead bodies could be the next one. I feel like I need to reverse that in some way. Yeah, so it is AI is going to be the real big thing for next year, and so it's watching that week on week and understanding what the major SEO platforms are doing, and how they're integrating that and staying on top of that, because there's a lot of that you can't predict, and we will just see it happen. We'll just see it released, and then we'll have to just jump on it and react. I have a fair idea of how it's going to look, in terms of market share, for example. Google will retain by the end, but if we spoke this time next year, Google will still have a similar market share to what they have now, but that will change in time, I do believe it will, but we just can't know. So for next year, for me personally, it definitely will be another book, but it will be the year after next, and that will be more around content strategy, specifically content strategy. But we'll have to touch on SEO. So I'm not sure what I'll call that one yet, but hopefully something humorous. And lecturing, I'm taking a break from currently, because work is just so busy. And so perhaps the year after next, I'll go back to that as well. But yeah, so next year for me, probably starting to write another book, and then it's trying to stay ahead of AI and how this industry is changing constantly.
Yeah, very good.
But
Very
I
good.
find that fun though, you know.
Well, finally, Gavin, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our worldwide audience while we have them, or any parting thoughts? And secondly, and really importantly, if people want to connect with you, with your agency, find out more about the book, where's the best place to send people to at this stage?
Yeah, so you can find our agency at friday.ie. We're a Friday agency. So one thing to mention as well, and just on the topic of our agency, is that you know, there's a massive crossover between SEO content and user experience, so UX. So our agency do both. We do digital marketing and UX because you know you can pay to send users to a website or to an experience or an app. But if it's not optimized to convert, then what's the point, you know? So my book touches on that as well, you know, that journey from search engine to actual conversion and purchase. So yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch to discuss that full journey and optimizing that, then yeah, we're at friday.ie, or I'm on Amazon too if you want to search up my book and give it a go. But yeah, I'm not sure you want that title showing in your search history, but you know, please, I implore you to anyway.
Very good. Very good. Well, Gavin, it's been really nice to talk to you again today. Thanks very much for being on the show. I want to thank our audience for watching or listening to this episode. I'm going to ask them to do the usual, which is to like, to follow, and of course, to subscribe to help support the show. And hopefully, they'll join me back here for some more discussions with creatives and leaders and thinkers just like Gavin. But thank you, Gavin. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you today.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great.